Hi, I'm Andrew Dixon. I work with Business Health. I'm an occupational health physician. This talk is on panic attacks. I'm going to look a little bit at the theory, but mostly at the practice. First of all, though, it's good to have some understanding of why people get panic attacks in the first place, and realising that they're actually quite normal in the right circumstances. A panic attack that gets in the way is a panic attack that's happening in the wrong circumstances, and I want to show you ways of getting around them, overcoming a really severe panic, and some exercises to do to prepare yourself for panics in the future so that you can manage them even more effectively. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. As you manage panic attacks effectively, they become less frequent and less severe, and eventually they just go away. Whatever may have caused the panic then becomes much less relevant. There will always be a cause for a panic. Sometimes that is an obvious reason, which you'll reflect on. You're driving past the bridge where the accident happened, or past a bridge that looks like the bridge where the accident happened. You're walking down the street where the violence happened, or perhaps sometimes just looking back on a memory and having that memory just trigger all those emotions. Panic attacks are due to a big bolus of adrenaline going into the bloodstream from the adrenal gland, generally triggered by a signal from the brain. Are panic attacks normal? In the right circumstances, yes, they are. Let's imagine evolutionarily that you come out of your cave, there's a stir in the grass, you see two big eyes there that look like tiger's eyes. Is it helpful to have a panic attack in that situation? Yes, it is. You want to be completely ready for fight or flight, and you want to block reasoning mind. You don't want to be standing there thinking, well, I wonder how much time there is before the tiger comes out and bites me, how much time it'll take me to get back into the cave, or what I should do. You want an immediate response. So panic attacks in those sort of circumstances are quite normal and actually life-saving. Moving to a more modern example, let's say you're about to cross the road and your eye catches a big red blur coming towards you that looks like a sort of shape of a bus, or that memory pattern matches to the shape of a bus. Is it helpful to have a panic attack in that situation? Actually, yes, it is. And a little logic will get applied, but not too much, and you'll either spring back onto the pavement or you'll belt across the road, and you'll find yourself in a place of safety. The panic is then supposed to be over. What can happen, and when panic attacks become pathological, is that the panic goes on. It goes on, and logic is not allowed in to block it. If you're not sure of the basic wiring of the brain, have a look back at one of my previous talks on the theory of how the mind works, the concept of emotional mind and reasoning mind. Panic attacks are deeply an emotional mind with very little access to logic. So, what happens in a panic attack? A signal comes in, the brain pattern matches that to memory. Memory triggers a strong emotion from the midbrain, and that emotional response triggers firing of a release of adrenaline from the adrenal gland. Big load of adrenaline into the system. What does that do? Think how you feel in a panic attack. It's all about adrenaline. If we start at the top, your hair stands up a bit, your pupils dilate, you're more aware, more light coming into the eyes. Your hearing is more acute. Your muscles are tense. Your heart's beating much faster, and actually the heart output is much greater. And one of the other things that happens is that you overbreathe. Your body's getting ready for fight or flight, taking in plenty of oxygen, blowing off excess carbon dioxide so that you're not in CO2 debt. So, looking at all those things, how can we get in there to make that difference, to make a difference and get this back in control? One of the easiest ways is with a method of slowing the breathing right down. The particular method I'm going to suggest to you is called 7-11 breathing. You'll find a lot of information on Google and a lot of YouTubes about 7-11 breathing, some of which I agree with and some of which I don't. The principle of 7-11 breathing is essentially slow breathing. In a panic attack, the body is told by adrenaline to overbreathe. As a consequence of overbreathing, you feel dizzy, you feel lightheaded, you sweat more, your heart beats more, and you have that physical feeling as well as the emotional feeling of panic. By slowing the breathing right down, excuse the exaggerated words there, but that's exactly what it is. It's slowing the breathing right down. You reverse some of those effects, and instead of the panic going up and up and up, the panic turns the corner and starts to come down a little bit. And as you notice that, as you notice the lightheadedness reducing, as you notice the tightness in your chest reducing, as you notice your heart rate reducing, you start to feel that you're becoming in control. And as you get that confidence, that's the thing that actually brings the panic attack under control. Confidence. So panic, 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 7-11 breathing, turn the corner, start to feel a difference, and it comes down. The next time you're in that situation, will you have a panic attack? Very likely. Will it be like that? No, it'll probably be down here somewhere. Panic, panic, start 7-11 breathing a little bit earlier, and the next time you go to Tesco's you may just have a little bit of a blip, and the time after you'll think, I remember having panic attacks, I'm not having a panic attack. So, what's 7-11 breathing about? There's no magic about the numbers. 7-11 is just the name of a chain of stores in the States, but any numbers that add up to about 3 breaths a minute would do. The idea with 7-11 breathing is that because you haven't got access to much memory and logic, you think of what was that exercise they had to do, you think of the store, what was that called? Oh, that was 7-11, wasn't it? The worst time to practice 7-11 breathing for the first time, by the way, is during a panic attack, so make sure you've practiced it before. You probably won't be able to manage more than about 2 cycles before you're gasping for air, but in a panic attack you'll manage plenty of cycles, believe me. So the idea is that you breathe in for 7 seconds, you breathe out for 11 seconds. It probably doesn't matter particularly whether it's a big breath or a small breath, whether you're really filling your lungs or you're just taking a very short, a very small volume of air into the lungs. Don't worry about that. Just do the counting. One of the nice things about 7-11 breathing is that it gives you something to do while you're having the panic attack. So I'm going to show you an exercise for breathing in for 7 and breathing out for 11. Some exercises will have you breathing in and then holding it, and then breathing out and holding it. I prefer the constant technique because it gives you something to focus on all the time. In order to make a breath last for 7 seconds, let alone for 11 seconds, you've got to make a really small hole if it's going to be a continuous breath. So imagine you're breathing through a straw and just see how it goes. And if you feel that you're going to run out of air before you get to 7 or 11, then you need to make the hole smaller, and you'll probably get it more right the next time. So I'm going to imagine that I'm having a panic attack, and I think, what's that exercise? Oh yes, 7-11 breathing. I've done this before. I'm confident that I can do this. You need confidence. So breathing in for 1, 2. So as I count with my fingers, I've got to 7. Lungs are now full. If the lungs aren't quite full, you can just take in the extra breath that you feel you need, and then out for 11. Make sure they're proper seconds. It's very easy in a panic attack to cheat and breathe faster than you should. So count 1 second, 2 seconds, 1 elephant, 2 elephants, whatever you like, to make it almost as close as you can to a proper second. So we've breathed in for 7 seconds. Now I'm going to breathe out for 11 seconds. After a few cycles, you'll find that you need to breathe a bit more, and at that stage that's fine, you breathe a bit more. But with a proper panic attack, you'll probably find that you can do 4 or 5 cycles, that's in for 7, out for 11, before you're really gasping for more air. I've only done 1 cycle. Because I'm not having a panic attack, I'm actually quite glad to be doing a bit more breathing. So you do the 7-11, you focus on the numbers. If you're in Tesco's or somewhere like that, pick up a packet of cornflakes and look at the vitamin content so that the world passes you by and you're not surrounded by St John's ambulance and well-meaning people. You could get a paper bag out, but that will invite people to say, are you all right? And call ambulances and actually make the panic worse. So give yourself something to pretend to focus on. Focus on your breathing, 7-11, and stay where you are. So if we go back to the Tesco's analogy, I always suggest that people continue their shop. What your mind is saying to you is, get me out of here, fight or flight. What you need to train your mind to do is to actually stay with it. If you had 20 things to get on your shopping list, perhaps you might just get the bread and the milk and the real basics, go to the shortest checkout, check out, back to the car or the bus or whatever it is, and you have succeeded. And when you reflect on that, you reflect on what you've done, you recognise the panic, you remember the 7-Eleven breathing, you did the 7-Eleven breathing, you turned the corner, you got the confidence to stay there, continue with what you were doing, and you will find that the next time you'll find yourself in that sort of situation, in that triggering situation, that you can actually cope with it very much better. So that's 7-Eleven breathing. The next talk is going to be on a technique for helping to prevent panic attacks, and as a sort of part 2, if you like, for a follow-on to 7-Eleven breathing. Thank you.